People say China is rising, but the truth is far more alarming. It has already positioned itself dangerously close to key American and global trade routes. With new strategic gains in the Indian and potentially Atlantic Oceans, China now holds leverage that could disrupt global trade routes overnight. This isn't propaganda. It's a growing concern openly discussed by the U.S. Department of Defense and the European Council on Foreign Relations. Before going into details, let's first understand why China needs this strategy. Basically, China's 80% oil imports, mainly from the Middle East and some from Africa, flow through the Strait of Malacca and then the South China Sea. Both the Strait and the sea are under immense influence from the USA. In fact, America operates major bases in the region in Japan, South Korea, Guam, and the Philippines, and routinely patrols the South China Sea. Apart from this, China has border disputes with all neighbors around the South China Sea. Tensions with regional powers and USA naval patrols make this route highly vulnerable. One blockade could cripple China's economy, and if China loses control of Malacca, imagine what would happen with it. It sounds crazy, right? It is. That's why in the 2000s, China started looking to secure its energy supply, but now China has gone too far from just securing. First, China built a deep sea port on Pakistan's Arabian Sea coast, and this port is just 600 kilometers from the Strait of Hormuz, through which a major share of the world's oil passes. Gwadar Port is a part of the $62 billion China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. It consists of roads, railway lines, and oil and gas pipelines that gives China direct access to the Arabian Sea. So, in case of a crisis in the South China Sea, China's energy supply would remain intact through CPEC. Also, oil and gas imports through this route cut the distance by almost 9,000 kilometers. So, CPEC is vital for the insurance of China's energy supply. But China cannot afford to put all its eggs in one basket and entirely depend on Pakistan. So, along with CPEC, China launched a project in Myanmar, and it is called the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, or CMEC. Like Gwadar, China has a deep ocean port in Myanmar called Kyaukphyu. Pyu. CMEC gives China direct access to the Bay of Bengal, bypassing the Strait of Malacca and South China Sea. Later on, China acquired a Hambantota port in Sri Lanka on a 99-year lease, and also built Chittagong port in Bangladesh for mainly logistics purposes. Together, these ports handle 30% of global trade and serve as insurance against US blockades of China's energy supply in the South China Sea. If we look at these ports from a distance, they actually encircle India, one of China's regional enemies, and this chain of ports is called the String of Pearls. In a hypothetical war between China and India, China can use Gwadar and Hambantota to disrupt India's oil imports, 70% of which flow through the Indian Ocean. Naval bases could blockade key routes, starving India's economy in weeks. It's a real threat. But here's the twist. India is not China's main target. In fact, in the long run, I see India would be standing by China because these two countries cannot afford an enmity. If you want to know why, let me know in the comment section. I will make a detailed video on it. Now the question is, if India is not the main target, what is going on? Let me reveal in just 2 sentences. Number 1, China wants to secure all its trade routes in the Indian Ocean. And number 2, China is preparing the stage where it can paralyze all the global trade routes in the Indian Ocean with just a gesture. China would do it when its trade routes are under attack. Let's now explain how this is possible and how far China has gone so far. Since 2017, China has been operating a fully capable and openly declared naval base in Djibouti. This Chinese naval base sits dangerously close to the Bab el-Mandeb, the mouth of the Red Sea, and a choke point for Suez traffic. All oil from the Persian Gulf and refined products from India must pass through this strait to reach Europe. And overall 10% of global oil trade and 15% of total global trade depend on the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb. So, in case of any crisis, Beijing can easily disrupt or halt this vital supply route. But China is not content with just this naval base. The latest report suggests China is eyeing another naval base in Sudan, where China has already built extensive infrastructure. In the case of a Chinese naval base in the Red Sea, China's reach will extend to the Suez Canal. Now, China could influence the east-west crude oil pipeline of Saudi Arabia, and all the trade through the Suez Canal. In 2021, a 10-day Suez closure costs $10 billion globally. Imagine what would happen if China closes both the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Suez Canal. In the worst-case scenario, if China closes these straits, tankers must detour around Africa's Cape of Good Hope to reach their destination, and it would dramatically increase transportation costs and make energy delivery extremely difficult, especially during emergencies. No matter it is costly and difficult, but at least there is a supply, right? Unfortunately, it is not, because China is secretly building naval bases in Equatorial Guinea. These are not just rumors. The United States Department of Defense has officially reported these Chinese secret military bases. Apart from these bases, China has built dual-use ports in Seychelles, Kenya, Tanzania, Namibia, Angola, and Nigeria. These dual-use ports are officially commercial ports, but they can also support naval and military operations. In other words, these bases are also naval bases in disguise. So now if the tankers that were blocked at Bab el-Mandeb try to reach Europe or America detouring Africa, China can easily block those routes as well. So, practically, China can disrupt all maritime traffic that passes through the Indian Ocean. But the Chinese ports and secret naval bases on the western coast of Africa are not meant to control the Indian Ocean. Actually, they are a direct shot at America's heart. Ports in Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, Angola, and Namibia put Beijing's navy within striking distance of US trade routes. The Pentagon is freaking out. A base in Equatorial Guinea could let China park submarines and missiles, choking 60% of US oil imports crossing the Atlantic, or threatening navy hubs like Norfolk. One misadventure, and game over for US energy and trade. Do you think America can stop all this? Let me know in the comments. But wait, America and its allies aren't just watching China's shadow spread. From the Indian Ocean to Africa's Atlantic coast, it's a high-stakes chess game, and the West's moves are bold but shaky. The Quad of the US, India, Japan, and Australia is patrolling Malacca and the Bay of Bengal like hawks. In fact, they are practicing choke point defense near India's Andaman Islands. Not only this, they are updating and guarding Diego Garcia, a fortress in the Indian Ocean from which the USA and its allies can rain missiles on any Chinese ship daring to cross. Apart from this, under the umbrella of AUKUS, the US, UK, and Australia are building nuclear subs for Australia by 2030, which they can use to stalk Malacca and choke China's oil if it tries anything. In Africa, the US is playing smart. AFRICOM's General Langley had been, and now General Dagvin Anderson is cutting deals in Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and Kenya, offering cash, training, and navies to block China's secret bases. Europe is in too, pumping billions into African ports to outbid China's debt traps. Sounds solid, right? But here's the kicker. China's building faster. Their subs already prowl the Indian Ocean. Quad is still bickering over who pays. If China shuts Bab el-Mandeb tomorrow, will this be enough? Tell me in the comments. What's the West missing? Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more such interesting videos.